episode 1 of Life Made Full. My name is Micah Race. To the right of me is
Christy.
To the left of me,
Doug.
And actually, Christy is my daughter. Doug is my son. On this podcast, we're going to be talking a lot about the heart of family businesses. We're going to be talking about faith. We're going to be talking about life and just everything that consists of those three things: business, faith, and life. We're going to give you behind the scenes into our family business, our trigger words. So we had shared on the intro to this podcast about how we all have trigger words and how real and raw that we're actually going to be. And so we talked about trigger words.
Some has longer list than others.
One, mainly.
Yeah.
They're talking about me.
Clearly, we both looked at you.
I said, how raw are we going to be? Just don't say any trigger words. And then Douglas is like, well, how many trigger words am I allowed not to say? Because you have like 100. So anyway, today we're going to be just talking about a little bit about our beginning of our cleaning business. I own a cleaning business. I've owned it for 24 years. So both of my kids obviously grew up in the business. Chrissy has never had another job outside of the family business. Right. Doug has ventured out, but he came back to the family business. So let's dive into that just a little bit. I was a waitress. I'd been a waitress for 5 years at where I was working. And I was asked just that simple question: would you be interested in cleaning on the side? It was a regular that came in every single Wednesday. She came in, her and her husband. They were an elderly couple. And she knew somebody who was looking for somebody, which in turn, we still actually service to this day. Mm-hmm. So 24 years later, we still service her every week. Mm-hmm. And she was just literally the person who allowed me to get my foot in the door in the mm-hmm. community where we are still currently. We're a staple in this community. I tell her all the time, Kim, you are a part of our story and you always will be. I actually tell her she is like the celebrity. So she started just spreading the word about this new cleaning girl. I was only 24 years old, so that was out cleaning, and it just kind of veined from there. And so that was the humble beginnings. Very humble beginnings. So let's start from there. Let's talk about growing up in a family business, what that's like, and the boundaries. Let's talk about that just a little bit, and how do we learn those boundaries, and just kind of dive into it and just let the conversation lead itself.
Yeah. Well, for me, it took some time for her to learn some boundaries. I'm sure she would say the same vice versa. But obviously, like she had mentioned, I've never had another job. And so I've just always been in this, even at younger ages, teenage years. You know, I did the summer program, worked with her, or did the work program, worked with her, did it in the summers. And so obviously there was just a maturing stage that I had to go through. And so I think that was probably our toughest time with the boundaries.
Or when the guys came on.
Yeah, well, between me and her, that was the toughest time, and then that's a whole nother topic. So, yeah.
Just as hard for me as it was you guys. So.
Yeah.
100%.
So Chrissy, so your role in the company,
yeah.
Let's dive into that just a little bit, because it has evolved over
mm-hmm.
the years, obviously. So to walk us through just, the beginning, walk us through kind of the beginning.
Yeah.
It's real.
It's real. It's one of our phones going off. It's real.
But so the beginning, it was a slow process. Now I'm pretty much do everything, run estimates, oversee the girls, oversee payroll, do all the schedules, answer the phones. And so now I pretty much can do anything in the company, but that definitely has not always been like that. Because there was just, like I said, a maturing stage that I needed to go through. And so I probably, when did I really start? Maybe 3 years ago or so, like being able to feel confident in doing all that needed to be done.
Yes. Well, let's walk back earlier than that. Let's talk about, how you evolved as far as, obviously you were out cleaning with me for many years.
Oh, yeah.
And then eventually you ran your own team.
Yeah.
So let's go back. Way back there. And running your own team. And then eventually, obviously now, it was a transition from running your own team to coming into the office and taking on certain roles in the office to eventually taking on my whole role.
Yeah. It was definitely steps. I started first just cleaning with you and Alicia. When
you want to pause there just for a second, how was that?
Which you'll hear Alicia get brought up a lot. So that's my sister-in-law, Doug's wife.
Yes.
And so she's been with us also since
16 years.
She was a teenager. And
Yes.
so me and her got to witness all the crazy from you.
I taught you everything you know.
Yes. And yeah.
I remind her that.
I like to tell the girls now that they have it a lot easier than when we did. Me and Alicia, you get Alicia on here sometime and we could tell you some funny stuff that when it came to running your tight ship that you used to call it. So we were out cleaning with her. And so me, you, and Alicia were a team forever.
Yes.
And then obviously you had to keep hiring out a little bit more. And then that's when me and Alicia took teams. And then as we just kept growing, my first thing was the payroll.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took over the payroll, did that for a long time. Now my husband does that. So we've just kind of switched hats there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. I know because you probably have even more steps that I might be missing. Because I know it was baby steps with her. She wouldn't just let me just take anything over.
It was lots of training.
Yes.
Our company, so we'll back up just a little bit because now that she has taken on so many responsibilities that I had in our business, now that has allowed me to go visit other businesses, actually go to job sites. And I do that. We actually just was at one last week. We were at a family business. Whenever we get the opportunity to pour into family businesses, we do it because we realize the value of a family business. And it's very rare that family businesses can survive to the second generation, which we have beat that statistic. And so it's very rare. So anytime we can go to a family business, we jump. Yes, we will be there. But going back to, the thing that I see the most with businesses, just businesses in general, particularly in our industry, is that we want to get out of the day-to-day operations as soon as we can. And that was never part of my story. I was never interested in getting out of the day-to-day operations. It took me about 21 and a half years.
About 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
That
It
might
took
be
me,
true.
about 21 and a half years when I finally was comfortable handing over basically the reins. But prior to that, I had been training her. It wasn't just, woke up one day and said, oh, here you go. Here's all this load. Here's the responsibility. Because our company is such an asset that, it's like handing a driver's license to someone who has never, ever, been behind the wheel. That's kind of like our business is. So we got to make sure that when we do hand that off, that we're handing it off in safe hands. And so I realized that in my business that I had to make sure that she was properly trained in all areas. So you remember every phone call, every estimate, you would be right there beside me on. And so not necessarily that she was going to handle it. I was handling it, but she could see how I responded, how I acted, how I, how I functioned in those moments. So it wasn't something that I handed over quickly. It was something that I handed over very delicately, very delicately.
Yeah.
And now she has allowed me the freedom to go help other small businesses as well. But we never ever did see you two traveling with me now, because now they travel with me. When you came, so Doug came on the business.
Oh, yeah, him.
So as the podcast goes, you will, as the episodes continue, you will learn that Douglas thinks that he is the horns. He says he's got the horns, and Chrissy has the halo. He said has been his whole life. So you came to work for the company about 6 years ago, somewhere around there, 5.5, 6 years ago, maybe 6.5. So tell us a little bit about that and what it was like to come work for a cleaning business, but your mom's cleaning business.
You gotta dig way back to
Dude,
those,
yeah.
those memories that you've tried to
Don't,
shove.
he don't have to go far back to remember.
I mean, I wanted to be a part of it, so it wasn't necessarily that hard to do that for me, because I don't know, I just wanted to be a part of the family business. Like that was, once I saw how much it was, succeeding, and I knew that it could take me on, I really wanted to. It was just a challenge with us both being so headstrong that was my only complaint.
No.
That would be it. I mean, don't get me wrong, a male in a cleaning industry is hard. I'm sure many can relate to that. But
Yes.
as far as it goes, like I wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah, you
Christy,
did.
Christy was there. My wife was there. You.
Yes.
His wife made it before he did.
She made the cut.
She made the
And
cut.
at the time, it was just his girlfriend made it.
Yes. So yeah, like we said, his wife. So she has worked for our company for now 16 years. So the same thing, every summer, spring break, Christmas break, whatever break she had, she was always working for the company, and never probably did she ever foresee the position that she's in today. So she runs our Columbus location. So she's very hands-on there. She takes care of all the scheduling, the team there, and all that. So she never.
Now all of that I said, now that I've said all that.
Oh, here we go.
It was rough, because when I came on, I wasn't aware of how much cleaning I would have to do.
Oh, yes.
So that was hard, because I thought I was just going to come in, and I had worked for a few different other industries, and I saw some changes that could be made coming into hers that I knew could help. So I thought I was just going to come in there and kind of, that was going to be my role, was kind of, I don't even know what that would be exactly, but you took it took me to the opposite world and put me in check fast.
In my mind, but now aren't you appreciative of that?
Yeah.
Because in my mind, my thought pattern was, well, obviously back then, that was 6.5 years ago, whatever it was, I never dreamed that I would be where I'm at today, out traveling. So I thought when you came on, I was like, oh no, he's going to know how to clean. He's going to know what it's like to be out there cleaning. He's going to feel that pressure, that responsibility, that burden.
There was a little more than that too.
Even though he and the job that he came from was very hard, like it was hard work.
Yes.
And worked so much overtime. My husband also worked with him, so I know all about those years. And so it's not like they didn't know
what
how
hard
to
work was. Oh no,
Yeah.
but you did not know what it was like to work for a cleaning company. So in my defense, I wanted you to know what it was like, and
it's a different work.
Very
I
different.
was doing extremely hard work, But then this was a different work. I mean, I was used to working at a fast pace. That's why I could keep up, but it's different.
It's very different.
environment.
And
It's a different dynamic.
Hard work.
Yes, it's a different dynamic. And you would say, do you remember you would say, I say this all, look at me. He would say, look at me. I will be a bull in a china cabinet. Look at me. And so, long story short,
You build up these weird muscles from pushing a vacuum all day long and mopping, like...
You get calluses right here. I had those forever.
yes, you did. Yes,
Oh.
those
They're
are
still
those
a
are
little hard to fill 'em.
They're
Right.
getting a little.
they're right there. They're
Yeah,
right
they're getting
there.
a little soft. Those are proud calluses. Those are proud calluses. I used to have those too.
Or I somehow used
used to
to
have
always chip my toes on the vacuum. Always. And I would have tennis shoes on and everything, and somehow or another, if Alicia was here, she would vouch for it, because we used to go to a certain salon, and the lady would always be like, oh, you chip your toenails with the vacuum cleaner? I'm like, yep. And she just got used to like always having to try to reshape them for me.
Yes.
And so
The woes. That's part of the woes.
Yeah,
that
so.
comes with our industry. So getting back to that, obviously your position evolved just like Chrissy has, and it has evolved.
I've been sharing this a lot lately. I've shared it with a few of them. It's like I had to prove to you, not the cleaning side.
No, I could care less about the cleaning.
The value of what I offered the company.
Yes, and you have everything that you would see, any marketing, any videos, anything even to do with me now, my coaching, my one-on-one, or where we're going next, which we'll share that later in podcasts, is all you. So your creativity side really gets to shine. But now also, that where you are at today has also allowed you now to venture in other avenues in your videography and where God's taking you, and you never probably could have forecasted into the future to see where you're at. So, all of this, and now you as well, people are requesting her. The businesses that I travel to now and the one-on-one coaching that I do now, they're requesting, like, we want Christy. Like we want Christy, because they have younger, the family business that we just went to last week, she has a young daughter who kind of is the same. She's a little bit younger, but so Christy's really going to invest in her and pour into her. And then I was on a coach call last night, and the same thing. They're like, can we fly our manager there and let them be coached by Christy? And so now this is a whole nother avenue for you that you could never forecast. You thought, oh, this is, I'm running the company.
Well, that's definitely the dynamic that no one else can offer that we can offer.
Exactly. That's why I always say, you're my secret weapon, and now you're my, I have double weapons right now.
And then I'm
double.
always at the business behind the scenes filming, but then I also step out and can give advice too, so they get...
Yes. So let's mix faith in with this a little bit today. Back then, by just simply saying yes, I didn't know. I was a young girl, did not know by saying yes what that was going to do. My husband always, back then, I came home and I said, yes, I'll do that. And so I turned in my 2 weeks notice, and of course he was concerned and said, I hope you know what you're doing and all of that stuff. But by simply saying yes, God had positioned and postured us for today. And so you don't know where God's going to take you by simply just saying yes. And so everybody can see it today, but obviously it wasn't always like this. Yes, we're reaping from the fruits of our labor today, but growing a business is one of the hardest things you're ever going to do in your entire life. If it were easy, everybody would be doing it and succeeding at it. But the sad reality of it is that most businesses will not survive past the first year, let alone 5 years or 10 years. And so that's the sad reality of it, because I believe what happens is that we get tired. You get tired along the journey. I read a quote the other day. Somebody said, if you know, you're being an entrepreneur, don't look for anybody to encourage you because you're not going to get it. Most of the time being an entrepreneur, you have to encourage yourself. You have to be your biggest cheerleader. You have to wake up every day and muster up something down inside of you that you didn't even know you had. Some grit, some determination, something that will keep you pressing towards the next day and the next month and the next year. And so if you're looking for encouragement along the way, being an entrepreneur, most of the time you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it. You're going to get a lot of people speaking death to you. You're going to get a lot of people speaking negativity and telling you just, why are you doing it? It would be easier for you just to go back to your full-time job. Mm-hmm. So that's, I believe, what God has really shown me. Most of the time, business owners, they have the answer. They have it. Yeah. They're looking for validation. They're looking for just somebody to come in and say, you're doing it the right way. We can tweak some things, sure, but you are doing it the right way. And so that's why I'm so passionate now about this next step in my life, about helping the small businesses, not necessarily all just the cleaning businesses, not just the cleaning business, but all businesses, because the components of business is business. Mm-hmm. I mean, it really is. And most of the time, you have the answers. You just need that validation. Mm-hmm. You want to chime in a little bit on that? About going to these, you've gone several times. Mm-hmm. We're actually going to be in business. You don't know that, but we're going to be in a couple businesses next month. Okay. I already told him yes, you would come. So going and traveling to these.
My question that I was thinking when you were just talking is because you didn't really have that too much.
No.
So like what kept you?
Her 8.
Yeah. What was your every her multi-personality?
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's a good question.
I mean, I would say to answer for you was just because, I think it was, and I'm going to go live saying this, but I think I'm right. Was it Paul that encouraged himself?
Yes.
And so I think that probably your deepness and your spiritual walk is probably what kept it going.
I would agree with you 100%. Most definitely. There were days that I did have to speak life to myself. I did have to on those hard days because I've made many mistakes. And I think that's, business owners, I speak to so many business owners literally on the daily. On the daily. And they feel so defeated because they've made mistakes. That's part of the journey. It's part of the journey. And without those mistakes, you would never learn the lesson, ever learn the lesson. Yeah. And, I have been defeated many times in my business. I have felt like a failure many times in my business. I have fallen down more times than I could count on my hands and my toes. You two know this. Mm-hmm. And so I've always been transparent. I think that's what makes me a different coach as well, is the transparency that I display. I will never tell you that I have never made mistakes. I would never tell you that because that's not real and that's not relatable. I have fallen down. I've got very bloody knees before from falling down, but I didn't stay down. And
you started from pretty much nothing. And that's an important detail that you always leave out.
I agree with you. Yes. What do you mean by that?
What do you mean? Like, you didn't have anything. It's not like you had
You said all you needed was a bucket.
You didn't have money. You didn't
no.
You didn't have mentors. You didn't have anything.
I had nothing. No,
I mean,
you're
your
right.
mentor would have maybe been Clifton Powers.
Yes, my first pastor. My first pastor, which
And
he
your
did.
grandpa.
And my grandpa, but my first pastor, going back to what you just said, how faith, it was my faith that just kept me going, because my first pastor, the greatest piece of advice I've ever gotten my entire life, 48 years, was from my first pastor. And he told me, you've got to get into the Bible yourself. You got to read the Bible yourself, and you got to know what it says. You got to know what it says. And so I took that literal. And so I would feed off of the scriptures. I would go to sleep reading the Bible. I'd wake up reading the Bible. All through the day I'd read the Bible. It was food for me. And you're right. So on those days, as the business kept growing and growing and growing, it was encouraging myself in the scriptures, because had I not done that, I don't know that I could have stood.
Right.
I don't know that I could have. Yeah. So you're right. I just started with nothing. We didn't have nothing. Everything Doug and I have, we have worked for everything we have. And nothing was handed to us. So I started with nothing but a bucket and some cleaning supplies.
Yeah.
And I knew how to clean.
Marketing budget.
No. Well, back then, you got to remember, there hardly wasn't any marketing. We didn't have Google. I mean, today.
Well, you didn't have that stuff, but you had the old school stuff.
I had the old school stuff, and I had my name.
But you didn't do that. That's
No,
what I'm saying. Like,
I
'cause you guys
didn't.
didn't have money to do that. You
No.
couldn't- You didn't run yellow page ads. You didn't.
Eventually,
run,
I did. I was in the phone book. Eventually, but that was many years later. I did get in the phone book. And don't that feel weird to say?
Yeah, that.
I was in the phone book. You remember that?
Jumbo book.
It
of
was
nothing.
the Yellow Pages. It was, and I was
That
so
was
proud.
Google. That was a Google directory, basically.
Yes, I was so proud of that when I got that, and I could see my cleaning company in that yellow book, and I thought, wow, that is awesome. That's awesome. So now we are the highest rated cleaning company in our area. We dominate that area because of Doug. We give credit where credit's due. We dominate it.
Crews too, though.
Well,
'cause
absolutely.
they
Our
have to
quality.
They have to keep those ratings. I can't put I can ask for their 5
Yes,
star, but
yes.
there's a reason why they're giving the 5 star.
Exactly.
Going back real quick, that's probably why you love paper so much then. You love paper copies because it all goes back to that Yellow Pages. And you said, man.
I remember that as plain as day. I remember looking at it and thinking, I have arrived. I have arrived. I am in the Yellow Pages.
Yep.
So
I know where it comes from.
I do love paper. Still love paper. So going back, growing a business has been one of the hardest things. Now growing my second business, the coaching business, it's been just as hard. Just as hard, not the labor part, but the mental part of it. But growing a business it's hard. But one thing I can say, and we'll kind of close it up now. One thing I can say is, if you are going to start a business, whatever that business is going to be, the greatest piece of advice, just be authentic. Just do you. Don't try to do somebody else, but do you. And it will all be all right. You just got to do you. What would you say?
Same. Yeah, I think that's the biggest.
Do you.
The biggest part.
Do you. And don't beat yourself up on days that you do feel like, you're defeated. You're not. That's just the enemy trying to whisper in your ear, trying to make you feel that you're less than, because that's his job. If he can make you feel less than, then you're never going to go to the next level. He's always going to keep you weighted down and stuck. Mm-hmm. Because going to the next level, he doesn't want anybody going to the next level. He doesn't want you to succeed. He doesn't want you to be blessed. He doesn't want you to prosper. And going to the next level requires you to say, it's okay to pat yourself on the back and say, you know what? I have done a good job. Yeah, I've made mistakes, but I've made a lot of good decisions. And so always remember that it's okay. It's okay to look back. I do. And I do. I look back and say, wow, man, all those days are paying off. And now we're building a family legacy. And hopefully Lexi will join the family business.
Which is my daughter.
Yes. Well, we beg to differ on that. I tell her she's mine all the time, but.
And then there's 3 grandsons, but.
Well, I think Justice might. I really think Justice might end up, and hopefully he does. If he doesn't, I'm trying to talk to him now. I try to talk to them now.
Actually, they're going to have a couple of different options because you're going to have 2 businesses to offer them.
Yes.
So they could go into the coach realm or they could go.
That's very true. That's very true. That's very true. So who knows where our story's going? I feel like we're only getting started.
Yeah.
I feel like we are only getting started in this next chapter. So anything else you want to say? We'll kind of tie it up. No?
I don't think so. I mean, no.
Okay. What about you?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right.
That's good.
All right. Well, we will talk to everyone later. Join us for episode 2. We're going to be filming every other Friday. So we will see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So do I you want to hit your thing?
It's good. It's
Hit
live. It's
Okay.
ready. It's live.
So we are back. So I know that we closed just a minute ago, but we're back because these 2 said we need to still talk.
We got more to say.
He's like, why'd you end it? I'm like, oh, I thought podcasts were like 30 minutes. 30 minutes. He's like, no, they're like an hour, 2 hours. I'm like,
but that goes to show how much that we tried to keep this as much unscripted as possible. I never set a time. I never said let's keep it X amount of time or X, that. So that just proves it. Right
so
there.
it's branded.
Yeah.
So it's branded in my head because my grandpa, which he was my spiritual mentor. I know we kind of talked about like I didn't have any like cleaning mentors, but so my grandpa was my spiritual mentor. And so his philosophy always was 30 minutes is long enough for a good preacher and too long for a bad preacher. So that's always just kind of been like always in my thought pattern. 30 minutes is good. 30 minutes is good. And he would also always say, you don't stuff them, like leave them hungry, leave them wanting to come back for some more.
Douglas said, well, I like to be stuffed.
Yes.
I get stuffed every day on podcasts.
That's what he just said. I like to be stuffed. I'm like, 30 minutes is good. 30 minutes. He's like, I don't know where you're at, but that is too short for a podcast. So let's dive back into the family business. Let's dive back into that part of it.
The podcast part?
What do you mean the podcast part?
I don't know where you're going with it.
You never know where I'm going.
No.
They really don't. No, I said we'll dive back into the family business, our family business. We'll dive back into that part of it. So talk us through. I'm sure a little bit on the intro. You're going to have a little bit about when you came on to the family business, from leaving the job that you had to coming to the family business and learning the boundaries. So what was the biggest, okay, so if you could give, because I don't think you've ever done this, if you could give another family business some advice, do you guys just hear that big sigh? What would it
tough
be?
Question. There's just so much that goes to it.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've got 30 more minutes. We're going to stay here an hour. So we got 30 more minutes.
It could go 3 hours.
We got time. We got time. Don't worry about time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Time.
This question could go 3 hours.
The second one, she still just said 30 minutes. That's literally engraved in her brain.
I did.
Minutes.
Well, it would be an hour.
So see, you just gave everybody their break. And now she's
Yes.
like, 30 more minutes. That's
30 more minutes. Okay. So what would be,
because I don't know if you'll like my answer. My answer.
Oh.
Because,
just don't hit a
trigger
trigger.
word.
Don't hit a trigger
It's
word.
no, because it's not like that. I'm not saying it like that. I'm saying like I would 100% say look at it as a family business. Don't look at it as a business.
Mm-hmm.
So you do have to, there is leniency. There is like with the people and like, like don't judge like, each other. you don't want to judge each other like, oh, she didn't, or he. I'm not saying, I was
Right,
actually
right.
just saying she, like, they didn't do that, or they
Here
didn't
it
show up.
comes.
Here it comes.
They didn't show up. Well, that could be Alicia too. They didn't show up that day, or they're
Like
they
keeping score, record.
Yeah, exactly. Like they didn't
Right.
come in today.
Yes,
Like
yes.
there is leniency.
Freedom.
And that, once the business gets to its point, but like at all hands are on deck when it comes time.
When need be.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
yes.
I think that's not trying to cut you off there, but I know because the business
We
that
are a
just-
family that cuts one another off. I'm just telling you that right now too. So you'll notice that throughout the podcast.
We'll say not trying to cut you off, but still cut you off. So we try to do it politely. But that business that we were just at, like they ask us if me and him have ever like not gotten along, and that's just never been the case for us. And so I think that that's a big part. That's what has made us work as well. Not saying that we haven't ever gotten on each other's nerves or ever had to iron some things out, because obviously we've had to have those
Hard conversations.
too. But it's just, I don't know. I think it's just learning, honestly, to have those hard conversations, even if like you don't want to. Because I think that me and him never want to hurt each other's feelings, or we never, want to cause any kind of, because we love what we have going, and obviously,
friction, cause that tension, that friction.
But you have to be willing to also do that and do it with grace and understanding, I guess, is one of the biggest things.
I would agree.
Because we have multiple dynamics in our family business. We have, obviously, there's me and you, there's you and him, and then it's brother and sister, and then it's in-laws, because my husband works for the company.
Yes.
And as we've said, his wife works for the company. So there's just a lot of dynamics there.
Friendships.
Oh yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
Friendships, because you and Alicia are
We've been
best
best friends. Yeah, and like we've been best friends since teenagers, like
That
attached
is a
to each
very-
other's.
That's very good points that you two are making.
Yeah.
So there's many different dynamics.
Yeah.
Mother and daughter, mother and son, siblings, spouses working together, friends. You and Alicia being best friends. You and Malachi are 100%
Basically just brothers.
best. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Literally, that's high.
Brothers. And so you're right. Only person we're missing in this one's your dad.
Yeah. He's here, but
He's silent.
He got the batteries last time.
Yeah, that's very true.
He'll run our errands for us if we need. He did something else the other day too. Oh, he got my printer ink.
Oh yes.
Yep,
Yes,
so-
he did. He will do things for the company.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's so many dynamics, and that I think is what a lot of people don't make it through. And we've somehow figured that out.
And but going back to the beginning stages, so you've always been there. Alicia pretty much, let's just say Alicia's been there. I mean, she's been with us 16 years. So it was me, you, and Alicia. Growing the business. And then when the guys came in, 6.5 years ago, whatever it was, when they came in, I didn't know if we were going to make it.
I know for a fact there was plenty of times where
we questioned if we were going to be
about putting an application in somewhere else numerous times.
Well, you vocalized that numerous times. I'll never forget one time I walked into the supply room, and this was early on, and one thing that we've left out is the freedom that it has also allowed with the children, the grandkids.
Oh yeah, so that was another dynamic.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. So the grandkids. So we, in one of our locations, so we just set up a whole entire playroom. I mean, this was they would come to the office every day because you didn't want them in daycare. And so that was another definitely just huge benefit.
Yeah.
That the babies were able to be right there with you, right there with Alicia. So when you came on, the two little ones, which would have been Bentley and Jackson, See, Lexi and Justice was already, once they got to a certain age, they went to preschool.
3, 4,
yeah,
yeah.
they went to preschool. They needed that. But then the babies, Jackson and Bentley, the 2 youngest, were just being born. And so they were just little when you came on and Malachi. And I remember walking into the supply room one day. Do you remember that day?
No, all that I'm thinking about is Mike. Like, he would just walk in and then say he's going to walk back out.
Because the babies would be, they're kids,
yeah.
they're toddlers, they're wanting to do this and do that, and so we had the whole playroom, we had them in TV, like they had it good there.
And you just sent a video.
Yeah.
Of the 2 boys, they're crying. Or it might have been all 3 of the boys.
It was because they probably weren't out of school or something that day.
Yeah.
Well,
So it was all 3 of the boys, and then you have Lexi, and she's just like prancing, literally stepping over the ones that were on the floor having a tantrum, and she's just prancing, singing, la la la. Yeah. Just
Like
in her own
world.
And then you add on top of that, me and you, when we would get into a heated discussion.
That might be worse than the kids.
So
wait a
you got
minute.
the kids and then us. And that's what I was saying. That's all that I think of when I think of the kids is Mike walking through that door and just.
Well, remember this day. This go way back. The 2 oldest ones was at preschool, but the 2 babies were there. I walk into the supply room, and you had your head leaning like up against the wall like this, and you looked at me and you said, "I don't think I'm gonna be able to do this." And I said, "Welcome to my world, Douglas. This has been my world." For at that time, I don't know, because then the 2 oldest ones was right there. So those were trying times. But looking back, that was a benefit that you got to have the kids right there and all those things. But we are past those years. For now. But if you do decide to have more children,
It's just gonna
I
be
will
me
not
pretty
be
much, yeah.
there. I will not be there.
Well,
So
our new office might be finished by then.
well,
so-
that's very true. That we're building
And now-
a home
Hopefully.
office
Yeah.
as well here on
We're pretty
here
much-
on the farm on the prairie.
Yeah, we're pretty much neighbors, so I can easily just drop them off to you.
Yeah, I'd be on coach calls all day.
Like,
I got coach calls all day. So that's a whole nother thing, which we probably have left out. Is Doug and
another
I,
dynamic.
and a whole nother dynamic on just how it's a miracle. If you really, it's
Yeah.
literally a miracle that that we're even on this podcast, because so Doug and I, 4 years ago, we sold our dream home, and it was our dream home. We had it just how we wanted it, literally. I had my in-ground pool. I had my outdoor kitchen. It was nestled back in woods. It was like a little log cabin style home. And so long story short, 4 years ago, she came to us and she's like, if you guys are going to buy land, you got to be doing it.
Was
because
it only 4 or was it 5?
I think we're on 4, maybe.
it's been 4 years.
Yeah, it's been
It's
about
been
4
4 years. It'll be 5 years in August.
I thought
So-
it was 5.
So a little over 4 years. But anyway, she said, because Lexi's going to be, starting school.
Yeah, well, we were already ready to move.
Yes.
And Dad had mentioned how he would like to be closer to us, and that's when we all kind of decided that we'd try to move close to each other.
Yes.
Didn't realize it was going to be this close. But
And so my husband, obviously their dad, he found this piece of property here. And we came out here. We fell in love with it. It's an old farmhouse. I love it. I love it. We've made it our own. But so they came. We were like, well, we think we might have found a piece. You guys come out here and look at it. And you guys both came out, and obviously the spouses. And everyone said, this is it. This is it.
even though it's an hour and a half
Yeah.
commute, but
Yes.
Hour
Hour
and
and
20.
15. Yeah. Hour and 15. Hour and 20.
you don't really drive it anymore. You don't even remember.
So everybody agreed and said yes. So we ended up selling our dream home, and we bought this piece of property, and Ended up gifting them some land, and we're all here on, on the same property. So I get to see the grandkids every day and my children every day.
Which has kind of backfired on us. Because now she can just come and see them and she gets her fixes. And then she doesn't like the weekends anymore. She can just come up on a Saturday morning, see them, and then she's done. So.
Yeah.
You're getting to a trigger paragraph, not a trigger
Probably.
word.
So we're throwing a whole nother dynamic in that, and
Change topic.
we all attend the same church as well.
Yeah.
So that's a whole nother. So we are a close family. We are best buds. We're best buds. So what has been, just kind of piggyback on some of the things that I talked about, and maybe put your thoughts in that. What are your thoughts?
As far as just the dynamics, is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
just the family business, and the rareness that it survives. We did the percentages last time. I know you don't got your cell phone because he said we're not allowed to have our cell phones out, so our cell phones are over there. But so I can't Google that statistics, but it's very rare that they survive.
Yeah, and
It
that's
is
what
rare, but it can be done.
Well, obviously. 100% it can.
Well, and I think that's why they say, like, the percentage, it gets really low with a second generation, because then that's siblings having to learn how to work together.
Yes.
So I think that's where it, like, really falls off.
Right. And just learning. But again, I think it does just go back to the mutual respect that you two have for one another. You two, I know you are very, I don't want to say tiptoe, but you are very cautious when you speak words, and you do speak with a filter, and that's very important.
More so in the past. I think it's gotten a lot better where we don't necessarily have to anymore. It's just, it definitely was in the beginning. And that's where I was saying, like, you do have to look at it like it is a family business. So there is grace, and there is leniency, and there is all these things, because I could easily, just as well as Christy could, pass judgment on each other on how hard she's working versus how hard I'm working, or vice versa, all these type of things.
Right.
And who's putting more effort and who's not, and all these different things. But at the end of the day, it's the family business. So
that's right.
What good does it do to always have that?
Right.
It does no good except cause hurt in the long run.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think, like I was saying in the part one, it's just that maturing too, I think. Because when they first came on, I've shared, just in the last few years, I feel like I've just really matured out.
Right.
And so, I guess 4 or 5 years ago, I'd been like 23, 24. And so,
You were my age when
Yeah.
I started the business.
And so, so now, like, I don't know, I guess I feel like just in the last few years. And so I think it's just that maturing out, and yeah.
Right. And it,
I think that helps.
Oh,
For sure.
definitely. And we're always, every day, we're always growing. We're always learning. We're always, figuring out how to be better than we were the day before. And
we've
learning
always-
from that.
We've always gotten along. We've never been a family, or like me and Douglas have never been siblings that can't stand each other or anything like that.
They're each other's hero.
Well, and it's funny because we still hang out.
Oh, yeah.
On
Oh,
the
that's
weekends.
another thing.
I mean, they were just up at my house on Saturday, and we play board games, and
That's another
So-
thing. Yes. So you guys are always together on the weekends.
yeah. So I think it's just learning how to separate the business, but also like Douglas was saying,
that can go off. That's a whole nother
Yeah.
topic that maybe we could talk about just for a second. Learning to separate the family business,
Yeah.
because back when you came on, and probably up until a couple years ago, I could talk about the family
I
business
could too.
24/7.
But I can go both ways. So you just hone in. I can go either way. Like if you want to talk family business, I'll do that. If you don't want to talk about it at all, we can do that too. But
Yes.
and then you're the complete opposite. You shut it down
Yes.
Yeah.
because you have to.
Yeah, it's for my health, my mental health.
And
it's just different. Yeah, and it's just different personalities. And I think that you guys like would probably say that you have to learn the different personalities.
Oh, yes.
And what
yes.
that person can take and what they can't take. And so, yeah, to where they could talk about it all day. She loves to talk about it. Like he said, he can go either way to where, yeah, I have to have that time where I'm just not thinking business, doing business, or I crash and burn, literally. I almost had one of those a couple years ago.
She did. She did. Yeah, and so you had to tell me, which we're going to be very transparent in this. You had to tell me, okay, I know you can talk about this all day, every day, but I don't want to. When I'm home on the weekends, I want to be present with the family.
Yeah.
Now, but you also, because this came up at the family business that we were just at, there are times that you will have to handle business on the weekends. It's just that's part of the business. But for the most part, you can handle, emails, voicemails, whatever it is on the next business day. Unless it's an urgency, then you hand it on the next business day. So that was something that I had to learn. That was very hard for me.
Yeah.
Because our whole conversation most of the time was about the business.
Yeah.
And so you had to really say like, okay,
Yes.
we got to draw the line in the sand.
Yeah.
And it took a while for me. You would
Yeah.
have to remind me.
Well, it's different personalities. You couldn't hardly relate to that because
No.
that's how you run, and it's not how I run. Like that's gas to your tank.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. It was like I couldn't understand. How could you not want to talk about how could you not want to talk about this all day, every day? I didn't understand that. And so you would have to say, okay, remember we just had this conversation. We're not going to talk about the business.
Yeah.
Unless it's an emergency.
Yeah. And she knows that. Like I will no matter what make sure everything is done.
Oh, absolutely.
But for the most part, it's a very low percentage that I have to do anything on the weekend. Very low. But I'm available, obviously. I'm still paying attention. Like
Yes.
I'm
Well,
still paying attention to the
absolutely.
business. But it's just not what I'm breathing in on the weekends. Like I'm still making sure that there's nothing, but
Emergency, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so, but yeah, that was a whole nother learning curve for me. Whole nother learning curve. And it took me several.
well, I don't think that she didn't get it until I think she actually seen the effect that it was having.
On you.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
you had to physically with your own eyes
I
see.
did. You're right. And then when I did see that, I was like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Because I think you were trying, because you had shared this at the family business, that expectation that you thought I had. And
Yeah.
so you felt like you had to meet this expectation every day, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
I had to do what you did.
Oh, yeah. Oh, let's talk about that. Yeah,
Well,
that's
when I
true.
crashed and burned.
That,
So yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's I'm not wired like that, and it was like I was trying to keep up at her pace, but I just can't for my mental state.
she told me one time, she said, I literally would never want to be in your mind for any period of time because you're like a hamster on a wheel. It just goes like this over. And I'm just wired that way. I am wired that.
Yeah, and it was just affecting a lot. Like I remember, like just feeling like I didn't have time for the kids, and Malachi made me really like see like you gotta pause sometimes.
We gotta tweak some things.
Yeah.
Can you tell your mother to come up here on the golf cart?
Yeah.
Let's have one of these hard conversations. That's a whole nother story about the whole golf cart.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you're right, Dallas, because you can talk about it all day too.
Yeah, I can.
It-
And I do think about it all day. Mm-hmm. I mean, but I can also, if somebody wants to have a regular conversation, I can do that.
It's
too.
almost like now that you're really talking about that, it's almost like a preacher, because many of y'all know I am a preacher. And it's almost like that part, like when you go to dinner, you go to dinner with a friend, and let's say they are a preacher. You want to go to dinner with your friend.
Yeah.
You're not looking to go be preached to, or any part of that. You want to just go dinner with your friend and have a normal conversation and talk about life, or the kids, or whatever it is. So I guess it's like that.
Well, I think I brought that up to you one time. Like
Probably Christmas.
Yeah.
He's an instigator too.
Talk about business on Christmas.
Yeah, we did.
I
not.
remember telling you that at one point, like, because there was no more, it was almost like we weren't having just normal conversations, like mother-daughter conversations, and that can also take effect then, because then we were just more business partners. And so I remember telling you that too, like, I just want to have conversations with my mom, like,
Right.
not my
Right.
boss, not, all this.
But in my defense, not that I'm making excuses, by no means, because I'm not, because you already know how I feel about that. In my defense, I believe what it was, and probably where other business owners are, if they're a family business, is when I transitioned out and passed that role to you,
Yeah.
it was almost as though I just needed to make sure.
Yeah.
And did you do this? And did you do that? And then that's when you said, I got it. I got it. It's all taken care of.
Yeah.
And so once I guess it was more.
I was just going to say there was also like it wasn't only what's led to where we are now. It wasn't only the growth of us. It was also the growth of the business. Like so
Right.
where we were always talking about how are we going to grow it? How are we going to grow it? How are we going to get it to here? How are we going to do that? It eventually got to the point where, don't get me wrong, like we still want growth and we still talk
of
about
course,
growth, but
yes.
we're comfortable.
Yes.
So like we don't have to stress about it.
Right. Exactly.
So
exactly.
so it's not only our growth, it was the business growth too, that kind of.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'd absolutely agree with that.
Yeah.
But we're good. We're
Yeah.
best buds now.
Yeah.
We've always been though. So
Yeah.
What?
I had a train of thought and just lost it. Just gone.
Sorry.
I've been having those
It'll only
moments.
take 2 seconds and you get one.
Well, I was
Gonna
just
come
thinking,
right back.
because I mean, like, there's been numerous times where you're texting me or I'm texting you at 2 a.m. Like, did you watch this video? Or,
Right. Yes. Yes.
did you see this? Or, just talking.
And that might have been hard for
Business
her
stuff.
too, because she, like, you were okay with that, I wasn't. So then
It's
it
like
was
I'm
just-
caught in the middle.
it
It's
was
like,
just
okay,
figuring
when I'm
out.
here, I'm good. When I'm here, I got boundaries.
Yes.
I can't cross that boundary.
Because, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing the same thing. I mean, I'm thinking about, that's always where my mind's at, when I'm laying in bed.
Right, right.
And
And
your
it's
mind's
funny
just
because
racing.
when you say you send me stuff, I do say, I like, okay, Dallas, if it's like 30 minutes or less, I can handle that. But I cannot handle anything above all that. So you'll always say, and you do too, it's only like 2 or 3 minutes. When you want me to watch something.
Yeah, because you won't watch it if you see.
Yeah,
if
you
you
have
see,
her attention span
If you
for
see
very
a YouTube,
short.
if you show her a YouTube video and it's 15 minutes long, she's not gonna watch it.
Well, usually she'll ask me how long.
So you
this
gotta
is.
you gotta know exactly where you want to watch it at.
This is true.
So at
you
1
just
minute-
did this yesterday.
At 1 minute and 30 seconds, start watching it here, and then it's over at 3 minutes and 30 seconds. So it's only 2 minutes long.
Yes.
He just done that yesterday. He was over and wanted me to listen to something. And you got right to where it was at. And it was like 1 minute and, I don't know, 23 seconds or something. So I'll try to do better. I'll try to do
And
better.
on, I know we touched on this on the intro, but so they are on the Enneagram, they're type 8s. And I think that is probably why you guys can just go, go, go. I don't know.
We're like the Energized
They're
Bunnies.
just, yeah.
You know, you just wind us up and just let us go, and who knows where we'll end up. Who knows where we'll end up.
So where I'm the type 6, and type 6 is they already like plan a lot in their head, and they operate out of fear. And I think that, so when I felt overloaded, because I already think so much, and so when I'm not shutting it off, that's when I'm just like, I can't do this because I already do this and I don't need any added.
She's the worst case scenario person.
Yeah.
Or the worst case scenario person.
Yes.
To where
I go with the flow.
yeah, I don't think I'm an overthinker at all.
I know no matter what, it's going to, like, we're going to get it done. Whatever it is that we're facing, that's the way. And because Alicia, she stresses over things, you know, in just everyday
And
life.
she
not
operates,
even just the business.
so like on the Enneagram, she operates out of fear too.
Whereas me, I'm just like, winners win, losers lose. We're going to win no matter what because we're a winner. Like, that's the way I look at it. And
I can't remember. What do you guys operate out of?
I don't know.
Thinking. I think it's, I know I'm not allowed to have my phone, but I think it's thinking. And then the other
Oh,
one
it is.
It's
It
feeling.
is. It's thinking. Yes, that's how we. Yes, yes.
So you guys operate. So yeah. So if Douglas
It's
is just
like
I'm assuming this is how it goes. I'm not like an expert on this, but I'm just assuming because how he said like you either win or lose, and we're gonna win. So it's his thinking. He's like, no matter what, we're winning. So that's all. That's all there is to it.
But it's the way I, like, no matter what, that's what I always tell her. Like, you know, there has been times in the past where, you know, stressing over different things, or, you know, especially in the beginning, stressing over money or something. It's like, I'm a hustler. Like, we'll find a way no matter what. That's what I do. Like, no matter what, that we're good. And that's the way I've always, like, looked at it. And there's never, and that's why, like, when has there been a time where there hasn't been a pinch? It doesn't matter what it is. I'm not even just talking about finances, anything where we haven't got out of it.
Right. Life is full of pinches, and we just got to learn that on the other side of it, we will see the story. In every pinch in life or business, you will see the story on the other side of it. And so we don't understand certain things in our life. We don't understand why we go through things in our business or our life. But sometimes God is trying to get a story from it. But you got to be obedient in sharing that story. And you had said that a lot to me. You know, you've got to start telling your story, which I dimmed it quite a bit.
Well, you dimmed it more than quite a bit.
But that was because what's the word I'm looking for? You know, that people would misinterpret what you're saying, and misinterpret that when in all reality that's on them. And so I've talked a lot about this, that people can't understand confidence. People, they misunderstand confidence for arrogance and, you know, what's the word? Conceited, being, you know, they totally misunderstand because most people don't walk in confidence. And so when you meet somebody who is confident, because I'm a very confident person.
Yeah, and there may have been that one person, and even in the long run, if you reached one person.
Exactly.
And
Oh,
you
yes,
saved
yes.
one, you know,
yes,
female that has went through similar struggles than you.
Right.
And
Exactly.
Then in the long run, who cares with what?
Exactly. But I think that's kind of where we're at as a society, that people don't understand somebody who's confident.
Yeah.
They don't, because they've never, you know, witnessed it. They certainly have never modeled it, so they don't understand. Here comes somebody that's confident. Now, don't get me wrong, we have weaknesses, but in our weaknesses, we are made strong.
Yeah.
You know, that's the Bible right there. In our weaknesses, we are made strong. So when I say I'm a very confident person, I'm very confident in my abilities to be a business owner. I'm very confident in my abilities as a mother, as a grandmother, as a wife, as a sister, as a friend. I'm confident in those areas. I'm confident as a minister of the gospel. I'm confident in God's word. And so when you're not, it shows. And you can be confident and still be humble. And that will shine through. So, like I said in the beginning, it's okay to pat yourself on the back and say, actually, I've done a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Actually, I really have. And, some will say, well,
maybe that could be like our next project. We can do something where we go to the very first house on Riverside and like show, I'm not saying for a podcast, but
Right,
I'm saying
right.
like a video, and then just show each, because you could go from there to
Oh,
Monticello,
yes,
Guernsey
yes.
Mill, and
we'd have to go all the
Bush-
way back to the
and then you
beginning.
could- 'cause
We'd have to go all the way back
I
to
think-
the apartment, the
think-
little apartment.
That's the one on Riverside, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes, you're right. You're
Yeah.
right.
I
Yes.
didn't mean, I meant on
I
Riverside
got you.
Drive,
I got you.
not
Yes,
Riverside
yes. I
City.
got you. Yes, yes.
Yeah, on Riverside Drive, and then people could really see what, because no one would guess that.
Right.
Like if they seen that, no one would ever in a million years guess that.
Right. Well, we all have humble beginnings. And so that's what we all got to remember, that we've all had a start. Any successful person in life or business. So, this podcast, I don't want it to just be all wrapped around business, because whoever listens to this, I think success, having your, being successful with your kids, having a great relationship with your children, and having a great relationship with your family, that is success.
Well, it's like you and Malachi were just, the success is also like with, how valuable is time?
Oh, yes, exactly,
and
exactly.
Having that freedom and like, everybody wants to look at their paycheck, but in the long run, if you're making 150 G's, but you're working every day of your life, was it worth it?
Well, yeah, exactly. And putting in 80
that costs
hours and
something,
gone.
too.
Exactly, it did. It cost you your time, your freedom, and moments that you'll never get back with your kids. Because the kids I'm an example. They grow up, and, going back to that, growing the business, there was times that I know I wasn't present. I was there physically, but my mind wasn't there because my mind was tired. My mind was, thinking about the schedule for tomorrow and getting things ready.
24/7.
Work. Yes.
Mhm.
And I know I was there because I always made sure, that I was always present,
Yeah.
but I really wasn't.
Yeah.
I really wasn't. So you're right. But what I was saying is we can display success. We talk about success in business, but there's also a component of being successful in your life.
Yeah.
And, everybody's measure of success is different. Everybody's. You could ask 10 people the same question, and it's going to be 10 different answers. Now, don't get me wrong. Why people do go into business, we know that. The number one thing is they want to make their own schedule. They want freedom.
Yeah.
Number two thing is they do want to make money.
Of course.
But outside of that, you could ask 10 people, and they're going to tell you 10 different answers about what success means to them. Because it's not going to look the same for everybody, nor should it. We are not cookie cutters.
Yeah.
We are all different and unique. So what success means to me is exactly what I'm living now. And, and that can change over time. As you get older, my 24-year-old self would have said, oh my gosh, being successful, well, just making sure my bills are paid. Making sure this, or, just having a full schedule as a 24-year-old mind. But then 30, then just take, somebody in their 30s. It's going to, and so that measure of success, I believe, will evolve too over time.
And I think success just comes from your identity in Christ too.
Oh, yes.
Like, I think that's one of the biggest key components, is because once you figure out who you are in Christ, then nothing else matters.
Nothing.
And that's just going to propel you, though.
So we could talk a whole, we could go into that, because that is so true. And that is one of the biggest, we was actually just talking about this because I have a coaching group last night, and we were talking about one of the biggest things that I see is how that our business can literally take on our identity to where we are no longer, ourself, but we take on our business identity. And don't get me wrong, your business is going to display your thumbprint and your fingerprint and everything about it, but you can't get lost. And it just reiterates again of going back to talking about the business 24/7, 24/7, 24/7, to where, well, where are you at? What do you want out of life? What is your life goals? We were talking about that last night. What is your life goals? Let's just not talk about business goals. What about your life goals? Because that's important. So being rooted and grounded and knowing your identity, that our identity is hidden in Him. And outside of that, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And just being confident in your identity in Him.
I think once you just figure out your identity in Christ, everything around you, so, your successful business and the successful coaching and everything else, I think that's just, like, evidence, and it's just fruit that you can see that you found your identity. And I think it just...
That makes the perfect sense.
Yeah. Perfect sense.
And it's so important to, I see, and you've witnessed it, and I know you have, people running here and 15 different directions because they are trying to find their identity.
Yeah.
And they feel misplaced. And so they're trying this and they're trying this and they're going here and doing this and this and this, and because they're lost with their identity. And it's really sad.
Yeah, so they're trying to fulfill that in other areas.
Exactly. And I wish I had my Bible, because I'd read a scripture, 2 Corinthians, I think it's 10 and 12. I have studied the Bible, being a Christ follower 25 years, studied the Bible, never have read this particular scripture, and that's exactly what it talks about. It talks about us not measuring ourselves with the number. And when I read that, I thought, oh my gosh. So Paul was telling us not to measure ourselves with the number, because what they measure themselves with is emptiness. It's they measure themselves with themselves, is exactly what it says. The KJV. Yeah. The KJV, that King James Version. We measure ourselves with ourselves. Don't be counted with that number. But nonetheless, what Paul was saying was, measure yourself by Christ. Because what he said is those who do that, they're not wise. That's what Paul said. They're not wise. And so when we're trying to measure our success by others, or we're trying to measure ourselves by somebody else's business, well, you see this business that's successful to the front, but you don't know behind the scenes. So you see this, and so you want to measure yourself by that. And what that person probably doesn't know is they're empty. Like that business owner is probably so empty. And so we're measuring ourselves by something that's empty and is of no value. It literally means nothing. So Paul was trying to really help us by saying, don't do that. That's not wise. Measure yourself by Christ, by finding your identity.
Yeah.
And so that's 2 Corinthians, I believe, 10 and 12, somewhere around there, for reference. So, but we were just talking about that last night. Pretty profound scripture there. Pretty profound. So,
What?
no silence.
I
No
agree.
silence. You concur?
I agree.
All right.
Yeah.
So, this has been good. I'm glad that we did come back.
Told you.
I'm glad we came back. There was still more that need to be said.
Yeah, now you can't stop.
It's kind of like the preacher. When the preacher's saying, I'm trying to shut it down. I'm trying to shut it down, but I just can't.
Yeah.
I just can't do it. And then you're sitting in that pew saying, yeah, you can. Yes, you can. The Bible says for you to control your spirit. So no, but you were right. There was still more that needed to be said. So we will conclude then until episode 2. Thanks for joining us today. Hope that you found value in this. Hope that that we can be a help to you on whether it's in business or life. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a family business, we just want to add value to your life. That's the whole purpose of this. So, till next time. Bye.